Hi there, I'm Seb Maley, and in this video we'll have a look at the recent IR35 case involving Gary Lineker. Mr. Lineker has had his fair share of press exposure over the last few weeks, following his temporary suspension from Match of the Day due to comments about the government's immigration policy. Just as that had seemed to die down, we then heard about his battle with HMRC, which recently came to a head in a first-tier tribunal hearing. Now, we first got wind of Lineker being pursued by HMRC back in 2021, when he appealed against HMRC's notices of determination for the years 2013 and 2014. This appeal was around a technicality, with Lineker's team arguing that these notices should be void because HMRC had not yet finalised their view that Lineker should be caught by IR35. This particular tribunal hearing didn't cover whether Lineker was indeed inside or outside the legislation, but it meant that we knew that a further hearing was going to come. It was eventually heard from the 27th of February to the 1st of March and published a couple of weeks later. The headline, which will be pleasing to contractors, is that the judge found that IR35 did not apply. It is, however, a particularly unique case, which hinged on a technicality we have never seen before in an IR35 case. As a bit of background, the official name of the IR35 rules is the intermediaries legislation. It is called this because the government introduced the rules to prevent workers from providing services using an intermediary, which would lower their tax bill. In the vast majority of cases, this intermediary is a limited company, which, when owned and managed by a sole individual, is commonly called a personal service company. But the intermediary in respect of the intermediaries legislation can also be a partnership, which is obviously a common entity in some professions, but rarely seen in the realms of contracting and IR35. Gary Lineker, however, did trade through a partnership, which he ran with his ex-wife, Danielle Bucks. This was apparently done on the insistence of the BBC back in 2012, who didn't appear happy with the fact that Lineker was operating as a sole trader. This meant that the IR35 legislation could apply, and this was very much HMRC's view when they were conducting their investigation. Indeed, they first opened their inquiries back in 2017 and have clearly spent the last 6 years building their case that Mr. Lineker's contracts with the BBC and BT Sport should be caught by the rules. We've seen numerous cases involving TV and radio presenters recently, so many would have expected a similar set of arguments around control, editorial guidelines, and whether Lineker was in business on his own account. It didn't get that far though. Contained within the IR35 legislation is an exemption if the worker has a direct contract with their client, i.e. where there isn't an intermediary in between them. HMRC's view was clearly that the partnership constituted this intermediary by default. Lineker's team, however, argued that Lineker was signing the contract as both a principal of the partnership, but also in an individual capacity as the worker. The judge agreed with this and set out a detailed explanation for why IR35 simply could not apply. This is an extremely nuanced point, and as far as I'm aware, it's the first time it has ever been considered or covered in an IR35 investigation. It's also unique to this specific situation and is possible due to the unincorporated nature of Mr. Lineker's partnership. If he was operating through a limited company, the same exemption could not apply, even if he was the sole signatory of the contract. Similarly, if his ex-wife had signed the contracts rather than Lineker himself, then again, IR35 could have applied. So it is somewhat of a surprising technicality, but the net result is that HMRC have lost the case. They could, of course, appeal and may do so if they felt the judge's interpretation of this exclusion was incorrect. If this happens, we are in for a long road ahead, as the case would need to be remitted to a first-tier tribunal for all of the determining criteria, like substitution and control, to be heard. We will keep you updated on any developments over the coming months, so please subscribe to our channel to keep on top of the latest IR35 news. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.